Greetings, brothers and sisters. So, if you're watching my other channel, I've been reducing the amount of caffeine I have, which has been, in terms of my heart thing, I had some chest pains, and every time I get COVID, it seems like my heart fluctuates or whatever, for a while afterwards. And one of my viewers said they had this condition, forget what it is already, but he went off caffeine and he worked on being dehydrated, and it helped him. And I was already thinking about reducing my caffeine for the same reason. But anyways, it's helped my heart issues. Like I have no chest pain today or anything like that. But, I'm low energy. I don't drink that much because I'm very sensitive to it. Whatever. We'll talk about that later. I'm just giving you an update. And so let's start here with this guy, Santos, who is a piece of crap in terms of the show, in terms of his character profile. He's a piece of crap, right? Lying piece of crap. But he's not worse than JoJo Magoo. That's going to be what we're segueing in here. And it's very hard to find somebody who is. But let's start here.
He appeared on Fox News last night. Listen to this exchange.
Do you have no shame? Do you have no shame in the people who are now you're asking to trust you to go and be their voice for them, their families, and their kids in Washington?
Tulsi, I can say the same thing about the Democrats and the party. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden's been lying to the American people for 40 years. He's the president of the United States. Democrats.
And so I said, hey, if this is the way he got to the White House, I might as well follow in his footsteps, even though I'm a Republican.
Resoundingly support him. Do they have no shame?
For more, let's bring in NBC's Ryan Nobles on.
Why not answer that question, Democrats, right? Because it's a legitimate question. Tulsi Gabbard apparently is subbing in for Tucker Carlson on Fox. And I really dislike the word shame. Shame isn't for other people to tell you to be shameful. Shame's a personal thing, right? Being ashamed is like hate, it's like anger, it's like fear. It's a condition, right? You feel it. You feel shame. It's a feeling that you have. When you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed. And it's not for other people to tell you you should feel ashamed, right? It's something you either have. It's just like other people saying you should be empathetic. It's a condition that you have. It's either there or you're not. It's either there or it's not, right? Some people feel shame for things they shouldn't. They have an overactive sense of shame, and other people feel no shame at all, right? But it's a feeling. It can't be regulated by other people. Empathy can't be regulated. Compassion can't be regulated. Hatred can't be regulated. It's something you have to deal with in your own system, your own person, right? But anyways, this guy did some stuff that's not cool. He's a liar like pretty much every other politician. And he embellished his resume.
Capitol Hill. Ryan, welcome. So how long can Republican leadership remain silent about this new GOP congressman-elect? And do you think we can expect to see ethics investigations?
Well, to answer your first question, Alex, it's
why would you even have ethics, right? Why would you even have ethics in politics? Because there's no ethics. It's just a fake, Should be ethics investigation. He's caught lying.
Likely they will remain quiet right up until they come back and start the next Congress on January 3rd. That's when they'll be in a position where they're forced to answer questions from people like me in the halls of Congress. We're going to press them about what they plan to do about George Santos. And it also coincides with Kevin McCarthy's bid to become the next speaker. That vote taking place on January 3rd. He already knows that he has George.
Look, he's just a happy guy with baby teeth. Told some lies. Leave the guy alone.
Santos's vote. The margins are very tight in that regard. They're tight not just only between Republicans and Democrats, but there's also a faction of Republicans who have vowed not to vote for.
Like one of the things he said, he was Jewish, right? Which, is interesting. But he says he's part Jewish. And this goes to the Democrats' inability to fact check him. I mean, the Democrats fact check everything. The liberals fact checked everything, right? And so they didn't fact check this while this guy was running. They allowed this guy to win a seat, and now it's coming out, right? This is also on the Democrats' inability to do any sort of research, right? I mean, many of these things were obvious.
For Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, so he needs every vote he can possibly get. Now, in terms of an ethics investigation, that's also...
Okay, this guy's a clown. So all of these MSNBC, let's go to my other toolbar for a second. So on the front page of MSNBC, you see this here. New York prosecutor looking into Republican Representative-elect George Santos, citing fabrication and inconsistencies. And then on the front page of Huffington Post, more outrageous Santos lies, right? And, we're going to get into JoJo Magoo in a second, but this is, again, what I often say here. You probably heard me say it. If you're against the behavior, you're against the behavior in all forms. If you're really outraged by a certain behavior, then you can't only be outraged when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. I mean, I say it here in the truth community because almost everybody, is hypocritical because, you get mad at people doing something because they're your enemy or the people that you're not a part of your group, right? And so, that's just a human flaw.
These are blatant lies. My question is, do you have no shame?
Incoming Republican Congressman George Santos facing his most contentious interview yet as he tries to explain.
He looks like a child. Look at he looks like a little Pillsbury Doughboy here.
Santos facing his most contentious interview yet as he tries to explain.
Oh, shucks.
Lies he told about his life while campaigning for Congress.
Look, I agree with what you're saying, and as I stated, and I continue.
Okay, we've heard this before.
Trying to minimize his lies as mere embellishments in an interview with Fox News. His answers getting strong pushback from host Tulsi Gabbard.
It's hard to imagine how they could possibly trust your explanations when you're not really even willing to admit the depth of your deception to
Boom, look at Tulsi going for the jugular.
them.
And tonight, CNN's K-File
Deception, Tulsi. Really? Deception?
uncovering even more of Santos's falsehoods, claiming he attended an elite prep school.
They sent me to a good prep school, which was Horseman Prep in the Bronx. And on my senior year of prep school, unfortunately, my parents fell on hard times. I left school 4 months to graduation.
But a spokesperson for Horace Mann telling CNN there is no evidence Santos ever attended the school.
No way. He didn't go to prep school? Oh, gotta throw him out. He didn't go to prep school. Holy cow. What a big lie. He's telling prep school lies.
And further fabrications about his family heritage.
We don't carry the Ukrainian last name for a lot of people who are descendants of World War II refugees or survivors of the Holocaust. So a lot of names and paperwork were changed in name of survival. So I don't carry the family last name. That would have been Zabrovski.
He's Zabrovski. He's not Santos. He's Zabrovski. He was Zabrovski, and his family changed his name to Santos.
Genealogist previously told CNN there's no sign of Jewish and or Ukrainian heritage.
He went for the whole, I didn't know he went with Ukrainian as well. He went with Jewish and Ukrainian heritage.
And no indication of name changes along the way. But Santos appeared to use the alias Anthony Zabrovski for fundraising for a pet charity. Santos
He likes his Zabrovski.
insisting, despite the controversy, that he intends to serve in Congress.
Now it's going to be incumbent upon me to deliver on those results. And I look forward to servicing.
You're exactly right.
George Santos, I'm not Jewish. I'm Jewish. Right? Apparently he said this in the interview. I'm not Jewish. I'm Jewish. He's Ukrainian-ish. Okay, so I went and found it. I'm in the editing process, and I wanted to find him actually saying it. He doesn't say it, but here's Tulsi Gabbard.
Additionally, Santos once called himself a proud Jew. But in an interview with the New York Post, Santos now says, quote, I am Catholic. Because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background, I said I was Jew-ish.
Her expression is great there, right? So that's pretty funny, that explanation, plus calling himself Anthony Zabrovski. Because He's got some imaginary ancestors from the Ukraine. I mean, it's all kind of funny. I mean, this is performance. This is like Ye level, maybe not Ye level, but around Ye level performance art. It's an ish thing.
And
Right.
serving my district.
My people, what is your people?
House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy remaining silent on the matter, even as fellow incoming GOP House members from New York issued statements criticizing Santos's lack of transparency. The most recent one, Congressman-elect Mike Lawler, urging Santos to cooperate with any investigations and called on him to apologize, calling the whole
Gotta apologize.
controversy a distraction.
Apologize-ish. You can apologize-ish.
Santos also under scrutiny for how he made his money and how he was able to loan his campaign more than $700,000. Santos telling news outlet Semaphore he earned his money in the capital introduction business and
What?
did deal building and
He did deal building and specialty consulting.
specialty consulting for high net worth individuals.
Eva McKen joins us now. So, Eva,
Look at them. They're so disappointed.
in addition to the Justice Department, Congressman-elect Santos has also caught the attention of the Nassau County District Attorney. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he sure has, Pam. The Nassau County District Attorney, Ann Donnelly, who I should note is a Republican, has pledged to get to the bottom of this.
She's getting to the bottom of this.
Characterized the fabrications as stunning in a statement adding the residents of Nassau County and other parts of the 3rd District must have an honest and accountable representative.
Okay, so both the Republicans, this is in New York, so it's a high profile state. In a New York race that's usually won by Democrats, right? A guy runs and wins a seat in the House of Representatives. And again, New York is a mecca city, right? And so both the Republicans and the Democrats failed to vet this guy. I mean, the guy's making crazy claims. He's a person with obviously Hispanic ancestry, and he's claiming to be Jewish and Ukrainian. Ukrainian at a time where, it's kind of cool to be Ukrainian, right? It's the, sort of an in thing. And he, lied about other things. And they didn't catch any of it, right? I mean, he's one of those guys that just BS's, right? He's a BSer. And they didn't catch any of it. And in the age of fact-checking, where everything's fact-checked, you have websites and people devoted just to fact-checking. Nobody found out about this until now, right?
Representative in Congress. She says no one is above the law, and if a crime was committed in the county, it will be prosecuted. Multiple law enforcement officers now looking into this matter. Pam?
Eva McKen, thanks so much. And joining us now, former New York Democratic Congressman Steve Israel, who once represented most of the same Long Island district as Santos. He's also the author of a new piece in The Atlantic, How a Perfectly Normal New York Suburb Elected a Con Man.
Boom. No con men have ever been elected before in New York or any other place. All right, there's one more here.
Now, according to your reporting in the Washington Post, it's been quite a night, Oz. I'm so sorry. Here's what you wrote. Santos said,
fake laugh.
in a 2020 financial disclosure that he had no assets or earned income, and he only cited a commission worth more than $5,000. But by the time Santos filed his 2022 financial disclosure, he declared he was worth millions of dollars, with most of the wealth coming from a Florida company in which he was the sole owner, the DeVolder organization. Ozzy, do we know what happened between his unsuccessful run for Congress in 2020 and 2022?
No, what happened?
We don't.
Look at this guy. He thought he nailed it. Watch him.
We don't.
Yeah, you guys got it going on here.
What he has tried to explain in a couple of friendly interviews is that he gained work experience at locations and companies that he's not.
Okay, let's get to JoJo Magoo here. So JoJo Magoo is a known plagiarist, right? He ran for president and he was disgraced like this guy was, but he still was able to hold his Senate seat in Delaware. There's 2 senators for every state, and there's multiple representatives based in population. And so the House of Representatives is like, I don't know, something 500-600 people or something like this, right? But the Senate is 100 with a vice president breaking the tie, right? And so, back when this was a big scandal, he plagiarized himself.
But this standard is not a measure of how we can evaluate the condition of our society. It cannot measure the health of our children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
So he's been a known plagiarizer. And there's a few more things here.
Pledge that our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge, and meet any hardship to secure the blessings of prosperity and the promise of opportunity for our children.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Woo!
I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden
Why is it, Joe?
is the first in his family ever to go to a university?
Why am I the first Kinnick in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Why?
He didn't change it even to college, right? When my sister went to school years and years ago, my sister's like probably 13, 14 years older than me, right? And she was a good student. And the teacher said at the end of the class, they took a test or a quiz or something. And the teacher said, "Why are there two Kathy Romanos in this class?" There was a dope sitting next to her, and he cheated off her paper, this elementary school, and he copied her name, right? And that's what he did. Like him saying university instead of college. Why am I the first person to go to university? Listen to him.
First in his family ever to go to a university.
How about a college, right? How about change it to college instead of, because they call it university here.
Why am I the first Kinnick in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
See?
Why is Glenys
That's what he should have said in the beginning.
first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
No, it's not because they weren't as smart. It's not because they didn't work as hard. It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
Does anybody really think that they didn't get what we had because they didn't have the talent or the strength or the endurance or the commitment? Of course not. It was because there was no platform upon...
Bam. So, this is the Washington Post. They caught him lying in 1988, right?
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden.
And so this is a Trump commercial when Trump was running against him.
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife is sitting out there in the audience?
So we saw this already, right? That's that one.
Thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
I was thinking on the way over here. Now that's a little too much, because as you point out, what's behind the words? What's there? And a lot of people, the rap on Biden has always been that it's just a surface.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found...
And so, he didn't take responsibility because he wouldn't. And he kept on doing it, right?
The tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children.
So we know that. We've seen this already.
Plagiarism. When he was in law school, he said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
He does some dumb things again. He's kept his promise. This man keeps his promises. He continuously is doing dumb things.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
Exactly. That's an honest man there.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
You don't steal verbatim, or when you do, as he did 99% of the time, you give credit.
Biden's critics say he sells himself as a man whose words and visions can inspire a new generation in politics. But if the thoughts, phrases, and visions really belong to others, it's a form of false advertising.
Is it a wise idea, though, to take...
Okay, so we know this, right? And it's more than just this that they're saying. There's other things, other instances. It's been a big problem. But I documented just recently that he stole from, who was it? He stole from George W. Bush when he said, and I'll show you the clip from my other video, when he said that he looked into the soul of Zelensky in the Ukraine, just like Bush looked into the soul of Putin. So I covered this yesterday with JoJo Magoo and Zelensky. JoJo Magoo plagiarizes George W. Bush. I didn't think about it this way, but then I told my wife, she goes, the guy can't do anything for himself. He plagiarizes everything. So he says this here.
But he's going to fail. And he's going to fail. He's already failed because he now knows that there's no way he's ever going to occupy all of Ukraine. There's no way in which he's going to be accepted by the Ukrainian people. And so he's failed in the past, and it was very important for him and everyone else to see that President Zelensky and I are united,
him and Zelensky are united.
Countries together to make sure he cannot succeed. And I think I may be mistaken, but I know I judge every leader by the way what they say to me, their consistency, and looking me in the eye. This guy has to his very soul is who he says he is. It's clear who he is.
He looks them in the eye and sees their soul.
He's willing to give his life for his country, and all the folks that came with him today.
He's pointing the gun at him, and the gun's full of American taxpayer dollars. So he said this thing. He looked into his eye and he saw his soul.
I'll answer the question. I looked the man in the eye. I found it to be very straightforward and trustworthy. We had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul. He's a man deeply committed to his country and the best interests of his country. And I appreciated so very much the frank dialogue.
So he said the same thing. Like, they're at a press conference, and he's copying George W. Bush's. I mean, I knew he copied it because I said it in the video, but I didn't think about the plagiarism. Like, he can't do anything for himself, right? He said the exact same thing, right, about the opposite person. Like, first he was criticizing Putin, and then he turns around and says, I looked and saw Zelensky's soul, looked in his eyes. That's all I did. That's what I did. Like, Biden can't do anything without plagiarizing. Here's George W. Bush.
Some of them in the book in varying shapes and forms. You write, I have always been able to read people. Vladimir Putin, when you first met him, you said you got a sense of his soul. But
I looked in his eyes and saw his soul.
And later...
I judge every leader by the way what they say to me, their consistency, and looking me in the eye. This guy has to his very soul.
He looked him in his eye and he saw it in his very soul.
Is who he says he is.
He is who he says he is. He's not an actor. He's not a comedian. He's not a faker. You can look in his eyes and see it in his soul. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. Most people are, but he ran for president his first time in like the 80s, and he got busted for plagiarizing.
And I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
Speeches, but they weren't just plagiarizing speeches. He took stories of other people's families and said his family had that story, right? I mean, he's, many times got caught lying about embellishing his educational credentials and all these things. But he's taken people's stories, life stories, like, things that happened to other people that he saw in speeches, and then he said it happened to him, which is effed up, right? And we'll get into the Kennedy thing here. At the end, I'll show you the I'm Jill's husband, which he stole from Kennedy when Kennedy said it about his wife when he went to France, right? And Kennedy did it in a much better way. And so this guy, right, like he's stealing other people's life stories. And that's really effed up. Like it's effed up as a human being and certainly as a politician. Because if you don't have your own life experience and stories, which you're supposed to share, what motivates you? What made you into the person you are today? And when you steal other people's, that means that you have nothing inside, right? You're empty, and you just know how to, like, say things to manipulate the audience in speeches, but they're not real, right? They didn't happen to you. Like, I can tell you guys stories of, my Journey series, or when I share stories of things, and you get a sense of, what makes a person into what they are, right? But if you take other people's stories, so here he is plagiarizing Kennedy with, I'm Jill's husband.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Barack Obama's vice president. And I'm Jill Biden's husband. My name is Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Like a granddad joke. It's not even a dad joke. It's a granddad joke. And, well, let me show you this. He stole it, right? He plagiarized it from JFK, so it isn't even his original joke.
I do not think it altogether inappropriate to introduce myself to this audience. I am the man who accompanied Jacqueline Kennedy to Paris, and I've enjoyed it.
I am Jill's husband.
Hello.
As I said many times before, I'm Jill's husband. Hey, everyone. I'm Jill Biden's husband. My name's Joe Biden. Please sit down. I'm Jill's husband and Naomi Biden's grandfather.
Okay, so what's interesting here, that was a clip from a video I made, I don't know, a couple weeks ago on my other channel. I'm going to save those two things as memes, or the whole thing as a meme, to use in future, videos. But what we see here is this happened 2 weeks ago. He's plagiarizing George W. Bush. And maybe he's aware of it, maybe he's not. But that's, the same sentiment in a similar situation. Bush said it with Putin, and Biden says it with Zelensky. And so his tendency is to copy other people's bits, right? Those jokes, it's an ongoing joke. He says, I'm Jill's husband. He even says it on his Twitter feed. If you go to his Twitter feed, it says Jill Biden's husband, right, as part of his accomplishments. And that's something that he got from Kennedy. He did a lot of plagiarizing from Kennedy. That other guy he plagiarized from was an Irish politician. Joe Biden is Irish, so he is, aware of those sorts of things, right? Irish, speechwriters or whatever it is. And so you could say, all right, that was something he did in the past, but he's still doing it. He is a plagiarizer. He copies other people's bits because he doesn't have anything original in himself. He's taken other people's stories. He said this, he gave this anecdote about his coal mining family, and his family never mined coal. Like there was these other things that he did where he just, steals other people's bits and stories, and like he doesn't have anything inside himself, and he's just a fake and a liar and a deceiver. And so Anthony Zelensky, yeah, he's a piece of crap too. He's a little bit more funny because of his answers, but he's a first-term representative from New York, where JoJo Magoo is the president, And they, allowed JoJo Magoo to get away with this even when he was running. And, of course, he has a crackhead son. I mean, all the wars he voted for, all the bad decisions. But probably the worst thing he's done, at least as far as I know, it's hard to think of something worse than this. And I got another piece from my video where I compare Hitler to Thomas Jefferson. Because they just create heroes and villains in arbitrary ways, right? And I get into JoJo Magoo and his, let's just watch the clip here. But it's about droning kids and the reason he did it. So JoJo Magoo, I want to get into this here. As his comparison as a human being to Donald Trump. I think they're basically the same guy. That's how I see it. They both have the same problem. They're both old, old school. They're both gropers, and this guy's worse than Trump, but Trump is a womanizer, right? Trump saying grab him by the what? Grab him by the boop, right? Grab him by the boop. And Joe Biden just, slathering all over, sniffing and snoozling women and girls and children and all that stuff. And they have similar issues, like similar narcissism. They have a lot of the same sort of personality characteristics. But JoJo Magoo has been a lifelong politician and is willing to do what the powers that be tell him, even if it's something pretty, graphically in terms of war-related stuff, right? Where Trump seemed to push back. Trump didn't have any military issues during his presidency. There wasn't him, droning kids and things like this, right? And so let's start here. This was the Afghanistan withdrawal that I don't blame on President Joe Biden, but Senator and Vice President Joe Biden. He has a share of the blame about Afghanistan. I don't think it was bad to get out of Afghanistan because it was a failure and it was, it was time to leave, right? But the way we were leaving, the way America was leaving was horrific because we were leaving $80 billion in weapons to the Taliban, which was what we were told all along was a horrible, basically terrorist group, a hyper-religious, torturous group. And all the Afghani people that helped America and thought about Afghanistan having a better future and who were against the Taliban were going to be tortured or ostracized or killed or whatever it was, right? And so all these people we were leaving behind were, in desperate circumstances because we were bailing on them because we went there based on all these lies, right? And JoJo was receiving a lot of heat because it was a disaster. And nobody likes America quitting a war to be someone who surrenders. And, I don't mind him doing it because it was the right thing to do. But he was receiving all kinds of heat. And so all of a sudden there was a new group that made it into the foray.
There are real and significant challenges that we also have to take into consideration. The longer we stay, starting with the acute and growing risk of an attack by a terrorist group known as ISIS-K.
What? ISIS what?
An ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, which is a sworn enemy of the Taliban as well.
So that was very convenient because we were leaving all of our stuff to the Taliban and we were leaving the Taliban in power. And JoJo Magoo wanted to now change the narrative about the Taliban, right? And so, there's nothing better than having a good sort of, war story that was developed here, right? To help deflect from the debacle that was the Afghanistan withdrawal. So it was very convenient that the ISIS-K came along. We never heard of them. Didn't exist, right? But here they were. ISIS-K, right? It's not really believable to anybody who has a sort of critical thinking skills. Very convenient that they're coming around and they're sworn enemies of the Taliban, which makes the Taliban sort of on our side. We're working together.
Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
Why? Why would they be doing that? Why in the world would they be doing that? run the risk that you'll stay there or come back into the region? It makes no sense. Like, you're leaving. Why would they do that?
Additionally, thus far, the Taliban have been taking steps to work with us so we can get our people out. But it's a tenuous situation. We're already had some gunfighting break out. We run a serious risk of it breaking down as time goes on.
So there's this new thing called ISIS-K. We just heard about him. And again, he was getting hammered by the media. They were just completely focused on this debacle.
This evening in Kabul, as you all know, terrorists attacked that we've been talking about.
Then we said that they existed, and then we said that they were going to do this, and then they did it.
About that the intelligence community has assessed, has undertaken an attack by a group known as ISIS-K.
And look this is a tell here, like, clear your throat, you liar.
Took the lives of American service members standing guard at the airport and wounded several others seriously. He had also wounded a number of civilians, and civilians were killed as well.
Okay, so now this thing that they said changed the whole narrative, because now this became the story. This is how they, wag the dog, right?
The Pentagon says 2 ISIS-K members were killed and 1 injured in a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan's Nangarhar province.
In this strike, they lost a planner and they lost a facilitator, and they've got 1 wounded.
Defense officials have not.
They're talking about killing the leadership, right?
It's saying in part, the situation on the ground continues to be extremely dangerous, and the threat of terrorist attacks on the airport remains high. Our commanders inform me that an attack is highly likely in the next 24 to 36 hours.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So these are the titles of the videos, just searching Joe Biden, a new group called ISIS-K. Addresses ISIS-K attack. Biden warns of ISIS-K endangering evacuations. Biden, we are not done with you yet. Let's watch this one here.
But I also know that the threat from terrorism continues in its pernicious and evil nature. But it's changed, expanded to other countries. Our strategy has to change too.
It has to change.
We will maintain the fight against terrorism in Afghanistan and other countries. We just don't need to fight a ground war to do it.
Exactly. You don't need that.
We have what's called over-the-horizon capabilities, which means we can strike terrorists and targets without American boots on the ground.
Well, sounds great.
Or very few if needed.
Looks like he's CGI'd into this thing here.
We've shown that capacity just in the last week. We struck ISIS-K remotely.
Did you?
Days after they murdered 13 of our service members.
Exactly. You got them.
And dozens.
How dare they?
Of innocent Afghans. And to ISIS-K, we are not done with you yet.
All right, we already saw this, but we didn't see that one part. And so, you're not done with you yet, right? So there's just all these videos. Biden sends warning ISIS-K. Who are ISIS-K, the terrorist group? These are all from a year ago. President Biden, right around that time, in August, early September, late August. President Biden, ISIS-K is a sworn enemy of the Taliban. ISIS-K responsible for Kabul bombings. We're not done with you yet. All these things that he said, right? And so what that ended up happening was they ended up droning a bunch of civilians and 7 children, which was admitted to finally, in their desire to paint a narrative where they were using this new technology of identifying targets and droning them instead of fighting expensive wars. They were, there was a number of mishaps that happened, and the worst of which was 7 children. But then here, newly declassified video shows U.S. killing of 10 civilians in drone strike. Even the New York Times got in on it, right? And so this is the president of the United States killing children. So how can you say that JoJo Magoo is better than Trump? I'm not saying Trump is good. I don't like Trump. I think Trump's weaseled. You know, he's gotten more weaselly, turned on his own people, right? Turned on his people, his supporters and things. But he didn't drone children, at least not anything that we know about. There was no reports of him droning children. He didn't drone innocent children, which Biden did. So how can you ever say that Trump is worse than Biden? So again, that was from a previous video I made. And that's, one of my better videos in terms of the, I put more time and effort into it about the comparing Hitler to Thomas Jefferson and all these other comparisons. It's really about who's a hero and who's a villain. And what this video is about, and I probably should have said in the beginning, is that hypocrisy in politics goes hand in hand, right? That one side criticizes the other side, but then they get caught doing the same thing, and all of a sudden it's no longer a horrible behavior, right? Nobody takes personal responsibility in a real way. Once in a while they crap out a fake apology. But when you have one side that has seemingly most or all of the power, and the only power the Republicans have is that a large number of people, 40% of the population, are really, right-wing or right-wing truthers or whatever it is, right? But in terms of everything else, social media, the mainstream media, Hollywood, all of these influential, social media being the big one, and the money and the powers that be and the corporations all lean left very strongly now in such a way that, and the hypocrisy of these liberal hippies who have grown up to do the same totalitarian behavior where their side, 1984 stuff, their side is right because they say so, right? And so Anthony Zabrovski is, a lying piece of crap, but they all are, right? And if you're going to hold him accountable, you have to hold JoJo Magoo accountable. And if you're going to hold JoJo Magoo accountable for being a plagiarist and a snoozler and a groper and all those things he's done, the worst thing that I think he's done, and this is, my knowledge of him, is that he droned 8 kids and civilians in Afghanistan. And what's worse about it is he droned them because they were trying to save face and change the narrative. Like, it wasn't even an active war. It was something that was just done to get the, narrative to shift from what a horrible job he was doing and what a failure the war was to, hey, we're fighting the ISIS-K. There was only one reason to drone kids or drone anybody, and it was that, right? It wasn't like there was a war, we need to drone people. Once we left, ISIS-K has disappeared. Right? Like, no one's talking about them. And, they were the problem that helped change the narrative. And so that's, it's bad enough to drone kids, but if the reason isn't even war or some, you don't even have a good reason to do it. Like, there's no legitimate reason to drone those people. It was a droning just as a way to, it was a distraction. And distracting people away from the reality of the situation on the ground and, everywhere else in Afghanistan. And the problem is, every one of us is a part of that, right? As Americans, whether you voted for Biden or not, or whether you voted for any of these guys, when we do something bad as a country, and we do a lot of bad stuff because we're an evil empire, we're all a part of it, right? Because none of us are really all that bothered. People are more upset about other things that are going on in America. People are more upset about JoJo Magoo, COVID policies, for example, or, any number of things that Republicans are upset at, right? Immigration, the economy, all these things, right? But he droned children. And droning children is by far worse, right? Droning people in general. You're a civilian and you're going about your business and there's a death bot in the sky with a missile and they launch it at you and you're dead or maimed or whatever it is, right? Your life is dramatically changed from this cowardly act of war. Like, it's not even a real war act, right? It's like a video game type of, to sit at home in America and control a drone somewhere in some foreign country Like that's just not, that's not being a warrior, right? But most Americans don't care about this. Like it's not top 10 list. Democrats, peaceful Democrats, right? People who are, vegans and against killing animals. They don't care. JoJo Magoo droned children. Republicans, it's not, a big deal for them. They're into war. And I'm upset about it, but, I make a video, I talk about it here. That's about it, right? And this is why people hate Americans, because of the evil empire thing. And because we don't care, right? It's just Afghanistan, Afghanis, it's just in Afghanistan, in the Middle East. They're all probably terrorists anyway, some things like that. That's what people believe, right? Things of that nature. That people of that in that area don't have the value that we have as Americans. If he droned 8 Americans, it would be different, right? Quite different, quite significantly different. And so we're all lying pieces of crap because on top of that, not that event specifically, but saving face and, making America look better than we actually are. And if lives have to be lost because of it and, fake wars and fake military action and, doing things that are military action based in things that actually didn't happen, false flag things or whatever it is. Those are things that keep our country going, right? And so I'm tired of all the judgment because we're all in on it, right? We're all selfish pieces of crap. It's just by which degree, like some of these people are abhorrent to me. I mean, they're so bad and they're so evil. But we're all on that spectrum, right? We're all selfish. We're all entitled. We're all worried about our specific issues and how the government and the economy and the people who run the system, how their decisions are going to affect us personally, and then as Americans collectively. And we don't give an F about the rest of the world, right? I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, some people are more caring than others, and there'll be people saying, no, I care so much. No, you don't. Just the fact that you had to tell everybody you care so much means you don't, right? Like if you were really empathetic, the pain in your heart, like, I was saying this about the death of my daughter, right? The pain in my heart or the pain in my system is, no matter what somebody might say to me about it, it'll never be as bad as that, right? Like if you lose somebody you love and somebody mocked you for it or, give horrible comments because people get judgmental because, I cover people dying all the time and sometimes I'm flippant about it. And they're like, what about those people's families? And I'm like, my comments are not nearly as bad as the actual death of a loved one. Because if you feel real pain, you don't care what other people are saying. You are just feeling the pain. And we don't really feel the pain of JoJo Magoo droning 8 kids. And it becomes just, it's all just, like I said, it's like watching a show. And so we become desensitized to it, right? And so, I'm just tired of the Tulsi Gabbard saying, shame on you. You're all liars. It's all, everybody's lying and the whole system's a joke and a deception. Let's just call it what it is. Like stop, just stop being, get off your high horse. I mean, people in the truth community particularly. And speaking of that, I just got a wonderful comment. I mean, it's such a great comment. I'm going to read it almost in real time here. Because while I was listening to the first part of this video, this comment came in. And it's just great, right? And I've had a few of these comments. This is a comment to, I think on my other video, it's Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies on my other channel. And it's the one with Cardi B. And the person writes this. Several of my comments were deleted. I'm assuming because you disagree. Now, the person should stop there because they don't know what the F they're talking about. I ban people. I don't delete comments. Very seldomly will I delete a comment. And it would be a comment from somebody who's a long-time commenter, and maybe they said something that, is going to be red flags or whatever it is for my channel, and, they shouldn't have talked about the thing or whatever, but it's not something I should ban them for. That would be a situation where I would delete the comment, or I'm confused by the comment, but it's, enough of a, I just, I know it sucks. I'm just not sure why. And so I don't feel like I can, if I don't understand something, maybe it's not fair for me to ban somebody over that. But other than that, I ban people. I don't delete comments. And I didn't delete this person's comment, right? And so they're assuming I did it. And there's lots of other things that can happen. Of course, YouTube has lots of different reasons to delete comments, ban comments. There's all these things, right? Put them into spam. I mean, there's a number of ways YouTube themselves could have got rid of the comment, or their algorithms, their bots, right? So this person now is upset at me, but I didn't do what they're accusing me of. So everything they say from this point on is based in their inability to understand reality, right? You know, because I didn't do it, right? So this is going to be funny. This is funny to me because now, because they think I've wronged this person, they're going to get butthurt and make up a whole bunch of stuff about me, right? Like before, they were like happy with me, but then they're like, "Hey, this guy just deleted my comments, and now he's going to find out some kind of reason that I suck," right? Because his lens has changed, right? His lens changed from being a viewer that liked what I did here, but then he's like, "Hey, you just deleted my comments. Hey, maybe you're not the guy I thought you were," right? So it says here, several of my comments were deleted. I'm assuming because you disagree. Nothing offensive in the comments, so you are just as bad as YouTube in terms of censoring. We can all learn and should be open to learn instead of believing what you have been fed by the media. At some point, we have to wake up to the fact that we are being lied to about almost everything. It's surprising to me that you pick and choose to believe the information they give you. I no longer take you seriously. You don't? Well, come on, bro. You don't take me seriously anymore? Bro, come on, dude. Dude, you don't take me seriously anymore? Come on, dude. Come on, why are you being so hurtful, dude? I don't take myself seriously or the videos. I don't believe any of it. Like, you know, I believe it and I don't believe it. I've talked about this before. I report on the official story. And so it's like me reporting on a TV show. Like all of it's an illusion. Our whole third dimensional reality is an illusion. So I don't take myself seriously. This is a comedy channel, right? And for you to to go there after you make the mistake that I somehow banned or deleted your comments. If you did say something that was bannable, and I ban people and I explain why, it doesn't matter, right? But if I do ban you, right, you wouldn't be able to comment. So, you can call that censorship. You can call it whatever you want. I call it, I don't want to hear from you ever again. I call it putting up boundaries, but whatever, right? But either way, if the worst thing that came out of this is you don't take me seriously anymore, I don't want you to take me seriously. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.